Welcome to BIV Today, the daily podcast from the Newsroom of Business in Vancouver. I'm Kirk LaPointe, publisher and editor-in-chief. One of the central issues as we contend with the challenge of meeting our commitments to climate change is who is most responsible for doing this? Is it government? Is it industry? Is it the individual? And how hopeful are we that the ambitious goals can actually be met, that the planet itself is not so far gone that there's little that can be done to save it? A new poll that's commissioned by Tero, it's a Montreal-based company, finds that Canadians are troubled by the situation. They're angry, they're anxious, they're helpless, even as their commitment has increased. 1 in 5 actually feel the planet is too far gone to be helped. My guest is the co-founder of Tero, Elizabeth Coulombe. She commissioned the Tero Planet Poll from the Angus Reid Forum. She's with me now. Good to see you.
Hi, Kurt. Thank you for having me.
That's great. I was a little depressed when I read the findings on this. Were you?
Yes, it's pretty interesting, the result we got. But we will talk about it. But yeah, it's surprising, sometimes interesting, sometimes shocking. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
Young people in particular. Right? Who, of course, have the most at stake. They're, after all, inheriting the planet from people of my age. They're really concerned. And did that surprise you?
Well, it's interesting. Our observation tell us that younger generation are more concerned. We can see that many of them are reducing their meat consumption, for example, or are limiting the single use. They are doing some simple act because they are really aware of the situation and the urgency of the global challenges we met. So yeah, it's really interesting because each climate study is more alarming than the last. Each report announced catastrophic ecological data. So yeah, we understand them, that they feel anxious and helpless. That can we make it, or what is going to happen?
Yeah, and that's such a big question, isn't it? Can we do this? Can we make all of these targets? Can we keep the warming of the planet to a certain amount that mitigates many of the larger effects of climate change and all that? But in reading the poll, I mean, people are very, very anxious about all of this. I wonder whether some of this, though, can be ascribed to the fact that we've been in a pandemic for a couple of years. That in a lot of ways, a certain level of uncertainty has been with us on that frontier as well.
Yeah, I think it's part of the answer. We are agree at Tero that state of the planet is very advanced, and if we keep the statu quo, it won't get better. So we have to do something. We believe that it's not too late. Like, we understand that the planet is too far gone. We can slow and eventually reverse the actual trend. Like, we can't say that it's too late right now. I think it's a little bit dismotivating, or we have to think that for us, every action can make a difference. Every little step, if everyone want to do something, I think it could be a difference.
Yeah. When you take a look at this, Elizabeth, who ends up being responsible? Is it the government? Is it is it an individual? Is it an institution? Who is it business? I mean, who's responsible?
It's really a good question. For us, yeah, the government, the companies are part of the solution. but not all only them. Like every citizens have to do something. It's part of the solution too. The government represents the citizen. So if we want them to take care of it, of the environment, we must make them understand that as a citizen, this is what we want and this is our priority. So we think that some people are in denial, like they are denial the situation, because everyone has their own priorities and issues, but we all have in common to breathe, to eat, to live, and the planet is the source of these needs. So for us, it's just necessary to take a collective conscience because if we don't do it, we will be screwed. Like it's terrible to think about it, but like we are all part of the solution. If we think about the government, we need them to put a structure and some regulation on certain behaviors and action. But after war, it's up to the companies and to citizens to apply them.
Yeah, I'm very curious on what the poll found about personal responsibility, because we're all individuals. We all have our roles to play. Were you optimistic about what you saw in the way of how people are taking more control, that they have knowledge, that they have some power, that they have ways in which to change their behavior and all that?
This is really interesting because the survey tell us that 86% of Canadians feel that that they have the knowledge and the power and tool to reduce their household waste. But when we are in the real life, when we talk with people, a lot of them feel like that it's not that easy. And so we felt that this number was really surprising, and we were happy to discover this, but we don't think that it's exactly the case, because, for example, for composting, only 45% of Canadian households, 45 Canadian households, don't compost. And when we ask why, there's a variety of inconvenient reasons. Nearly half of Canadians fear that it attracts bugs and animals, like you just told me before we get online with bears. 3 in 10 feel their kitchen lack the space. The same number, and 30% feel the smell is unbearable. So there's a lot of things that people don't compost at home. And this is for an example at composting, but there's a lot of things that sometimes it's difficult to know what to do your part for your environment.
Yeah, which is, there's a gap there, isn't there, Elizabeth? It's that it seems as if people are willing to do something, to adjust their behavior, but really, when it comes to things like composting, they're not actually doing it. It's so how do you think you can close this gap a bit?
I think it's because there's no solution that really answer the needs of citizens. And this is why with Tero, we create a little appliance that is really easy to use at home without any inconvenience we knew about the compost. So like for Tero, you just have to put all your food waste into the device, and you just have to push a button, and that's easy like this. There's no smells, no odors. So this really integrate well in your day-to-day habits, and the answer of of this, I think it's the easy way and the simple way to use it at home. It has to be simple and people will do it, but we have to find great solutions that they are really answering the needs and thinking about how people will use it at home to make sure that they will do it.
Yeah, I mean, the device that we're talking about is a composting device that you and Valerie La Liberté developed while you're at Laval. But I wonder, you know, I mean, it's taking care of some of the things there, but do you concern yourself with the fact that it seems as if people are willing to do some very small things, but maybe they're still anxious about doing some of the big things that are necessary in order to change their behavior?
Yeah, but well, I think that step by step, it's a good way. It's a good way to think about it, because if we saw it like a big picture, and like it could be difficult for people to do something, because it's when you see, oh, okay, I have to do everything and it's going to be really difficult. But if we go step by step, it's really more easy and people will more agree to do it.
Yeah,
So,
that was one of the findings of their poll, which was that I think 88% felt it was easier to take these small steps rather than a big overhaul.
And it makes sense for us when we are in our home and to do something new. It has to be step by step.
Yeah. One thing that I found really interesting in this quite interesting poll too was that there isn't a very large number of Canadians who feel that this is the government's problem to solve. They either say it's future generations, this generation, and maybe companies, but the government didn't rank highly. So this is not a problem that Canadians are shifting over to the government to say it's your job.
Yeah, it's a 3 in 10 feel that the state of the planet is the government problem. And yeah, but I think they understand it's part of everyone. And to know that 2/3 of the country feel that the state of the planet is a problem for future generation, this is really shocking for us. Because a little bit disappointing too. We disagree about this fact. We think that it's everyone's responsibility to do something and to leave the planet as clean as when we arrive. So it's not supposed to say, oh, okay, it's for future generation and we can do anything. Like, for me, it doesn't make sense at all.
But that suggests too that people are prepared to push this one down the road a little bit, right?
Yes, it's really shocking, and this is why we want to suggest some easy solution, and people can just integrate them in their day-to-day, and it could do their part for the environment without any issue or complex product, or I don't know.
Okay, so last question on this. I mean, when you take a look at what the findings of this poll have been, does that leave you optimistic or pessimistic?
It depends of the question. I think when we talk about the problem for future generation, for this is not really optimistic for me. But to know that they are aware of it, and that I don't know. It depends. It's difficult for me. I don't have a really good answer for this. I think it's just the reality. I think that what we see when we saw that the number is really higher for younger adults. Sorry, this is really accurate, I think, and Yeah, I think that we have a lot of work to do to sensibilize people and to make them understand the urgency of the situation. And if there's more people talking about it, more companies doing some different choice, sometimes it could be just easy choice. You just have to think about it. And when it's part of your values as a company, you have a bigger impact with your community, with your employees. You can just talk about it, and this is the power, I think, of the companies. They have a bigger voice than only one person. So I think we have the government, the responsibility I see from the government is to make more laws, or I don't know, for companies, so they can have the responsibility to help a lot of people to do some things.
Yeah. Well, listen, Elizabeth, it's a really interesting poll. It's very good of the company to do it, to commission it. I look forward to actually more of these because I think it'd be interesting to track people as time goes on, maybe as the pandemic relents a little bit, to see if maybe attitudes change a little bit among Canadians. But it's a very interesting poll, and thank you for talking today about it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Elizabeth Coulombe is the co-founder of Tero, which commissioned a poll, took a look at Canadians' attitudes toward the environment, toward climate change, and toward who is responsible for it. I'm Kirk LaPointe, publisher and editor-in-chief at Business in Vancouver. Thanks a lot for watching today.